Hello everyone, welcome to the fourth lecture under module 1 in Big Data Analytics. Going to this, we know that data is a key ingredient of any analytical exercise. So identifying all the data sources that are of potential interest before starting the analytical exercise is key to any model development. So if we take more data, the better will be the model that predicts accurate in an accurate way. But in real life, data may be noisy. After collecting data from various sources, the data may not be very clean. It may be noisy or it can contain incomplete data, inconsistent data, and also some duplicate data. So we need to use various data filtering mechanisms which have to be applied to the data in order to reduce it into a manageable and relevant size. In this scenario, we need to know about the concept of GIGO, that is garbage in, garbage out. It is nothing but you take messy data for the analysis process, you end up with messy results. Messy or noisy data will always end in messy models. So you need to filter the data that contains a lot of noise, and you have to come out with good predictable generalizable data models. So it is of utmost importance that every data pre-processing step is carried out very carefully with proper justification why they are actually doing that step of pre-processing, validation, and documentation before stepping into the analytical process. Even the least mistake made may make the entire data unusable. So you have to do this pre-processing step with utmost care. So let's discuss on the most important data pre-processing steps. Before going into depth of data pre-processing steps, let us see what are the types of data sources from which data can be collected. The first type of data source we can say as transaction data. So what is this transaction data? If we perform a transaction at ATM, or if you buy something at a retail market, or if you buy something online, that is converted into a transaction, that is recorded or captured as a transaction. It contains structured low level and detailed information, right? Why we call it as structured is we have the data under various parameters recorded, say the time of the transaction, the type of the transaction, or at which ATM the transaction is performed, what type of transaction it is, everything will be recorded under a transaction number. So it is structured and we get the very key details, low level details, and also the detailed information. So the characteristics of the customer transaction are recorded under this transaction data. For example, purchase information, credit card payment, all these are transaction data. And these are mainly stored in large online transaction processing relational databases. And the next type of data source is through qualitative data or expert based data. Who is an expert? Expert is someone who has substantial knowledge about some domain, right? For example, he may be a credit portfolio manager or he may be an investment expert. These people will use their common sense along with their business experience to draw some statements from the data that is available, or to identify the data that is crucial for performing the analysis process to answer the problems at hand, right? So this expertise stems from both common sense and business experience, and this expertise is also required to steer the model in the right direction and allows to interpret the analytical results from the right perspective. And the next type of data source is through data poolers. who are data poolers. For example, we can quote here Dun and Bradstreet or Thomson Reuters. These businesses, the core business of these organizations is to gather the data in a particular setting, like credit risk or marketing or sales, and based on this data they try to build the models with it and also sell the output of these models, like a scoring system, credit scoring system, which is used to score the customers based on their purchase behavior or financial behavior. And also in some cases with the raw data, they may also sell the raw data used to build these models to the interested customers. And other type of data sources are publicly available data. Publicly available data in the sense macroeconomic data such as gross domestic product, inflation, literacy rate, or carbon emissions or industrialization rate. All these make this publicly available data. This publicly available, if models are built on this publicly available data, they help us to monitor the changes in the economy by analyzing this publicly available data. And the next type of data source is social media data. Social media data, mainly you can think of Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. All these are social media data. Analyzing this kind of data will help us to know the social media behavior of the people. Say, for example, some interesting results like happiness is contagious or obesity is contagious, or you can reach any person on the earth with an average of 6 hops. This kind of interesting results are obtained by analyzing this social media data. The next topic, sampling. What is the aim of sampling? Why do we need to do sampling? In some cases, when the data set is very large, we can end up taking a sample from that and analyzing that sample. And then, what is the need for this sampling? Nowadays, the computing capacity, high-speed computing, have come into picture. In this case, sampling is not at all required. You can analyze the entire data set that is available. But sampling normally helps us to take a representative subset of the available population. Then what are the key requirements of sampling? Sampling should be representative, means the representative in the sense, say if you are trying to sample from the world population, you need to consider all demographic factors like age and geographical location and working people. Like that, you need to consider various parameters in order to make your sample representative. And also if you are sampling customer population, in that case you should remember that customers of today are more similar to customers of tomorrow than customers of yesterday. If we pay focus to such kind of things, we may end up with good representative samples. And also choosing the optimal time window is also important. While choosing this optimal time window, we need to maintain a trade-off between whether we require lots of data or recency in the data is important to us. Means if we have lots of data, we may end up designing robust and analytical models. Whereas if we focus more on recency of the data, recent data, then we may come out with representative samples. So we need to maintain a trade-off between these two criteria in order to make our sample highly representative. And also the average business period over which we are taking the data. This will allow us to get a picture of the target population that is as accurate as possible. So you need to decide on the average business period over which you are gathering the data. And while doing this, we need to avoid sampling bias. Now, what is a sampling bias? Say if we are trying to gather some data based on geographical location. Now, when we are gathering that data, we can't simply gather data only some east part of the world leaving the western part, or only west part of the world leaving the eastern part. You need to take sufficient amount of samples from both the geographical locations in order to make the sample representative. So you need to avoid bias in the sampling. If you take credit scoring. In that case, in a bank, if we take customers who applied for credit, in that case, the future population would be customers who are entering through the door. We call the customers who come to the bank to apply for a credit as through the door customers. Now, in this through the door customers, if we want to build a model for this credit score, for the historical through the door customers data what is available at hand, in that we have two types of customers for whom the credit is given and for whom it is rejected. We have two types of customers in through the door customers in the historical data. One is for whom the credit is accepted and for whom the credit is rejected, right? Now, if we take the data of only the customers for whom the credit is accepted, we have their data whether they are defaulters or whether they are good payers of the credit. But we don't have sufficient information about this rejected data because in this case we don't have any details about the target label, whether they might be defaulters or there may be good payers of the credit. We have only data about the customers for whom the credit is accepted. In this case, we call it as a biased sampling. Why? Because in the rejected part of the customers, we don't have information whether they might be defaulters or whether they might be good customers. Right? This is called as sampling bias. Also, if we go in depth, we may also have data about customers who were offered the credit but they rejected to take it. In some cases, in the initial case, they might have thought to take the credit and applied for it, and they're also offered the credit, but they're not ready to take it. They cancel their idea of taking the credit. Even that can be criteria for taking the sample, right? So we need to see what data has to be considered for the sampling in order to avoid any sampling bias. And the last topic we consider here is stratified sampling. Now, a sample which is taken according to the predefined strata is called as stratified sampling. If we take the example of churn prediction, or if we take the example of fraud detection, in this case, fraud detection, most of the data will be skewed. Skewed in the sense, most of the transactions will be labeled as genuine transactions, say 99%, and only one or two data points may be marked as fraudulent transactions. In this case, if we take the data set, we have most of the data skewed towards this genuine transactions and only some data points to identified as fraudulent transactions. So when stratifying according to the target churn indicator or according to the target fraudulent transaction type, according to the transaction type, the sample now would contain the same percentage of churners and non-churners as in the original data if we make a stratified sampling, or the sample may contain same percentage of genuine transactions and fraudulent transactions as in the original data if we are performing this stratified sampling. Hope you understood this. Now coming up in the next lecture, we are going to see about types of data elements and visual data exploration and exploratory statistical analysis and how to deal with missing values. Meet you in the next lecture.